Hi there, smart drivers, talking to you tonight about police getting pulled over by the police for a traffic violation. Most of the time speeding, action contrary to a sign, or something else that may be wrong with your car, those types of things. It's an American discussion. We're going to talk about police forces in the United States and different kinds of police forces in the United States. If you want to look at other good stuff here, Corey will put up the links for these on the podcast, and as well the shorter video that will give you just the quick details, step-by-step instructions on getting pulled over by police and the procedure that you need to follow to keep yourself safe. Levels of policing. There are different levels of policing, as you know, there in the States. There are city police, and we have city police here in Canada that are outside of the RCMP. In the United States, it's city police, sheriff departments, state troopers, which are employed by the state, Iowa state troopers, the Ohio state troopers, New Jersey state troopers, and whatnot. Capitol Police, which is federal and part of the Washington, D.C. police force. And then there are federal police, which is the FBI. And they generally, as you can see in the movies, tend to have a university education and education before they actually get hired by the police departments. Whereas sheriff departments, for the most part, tend to be elected positions in the United States. Origins of law. Where does law come from? So where do laws come from is essentially what I'm trying to say. And how do police get the authority to enforce these laws? So the idea of the law is put forward in Parliament, in Congress in the United States. We're talking about Congress. We're not talking about Canada. So the idea is put forward. There is a bill that is drafted and it is presented to Congress. And when all the work is done on the law, when it's in Congress and by the people who sit in Congress, and they debate it, they make amendments to the law, and then it's passed through Congress. It's passed by the Senate, and then it's given presidential assent. Once it gets through Congress, it's more or less a rubber stamping of getting through. There may be some details or some ideas or things that may need to be worked out once it gets to Senate, but for the most part, once it gets past Congress, all the hard work has been done, and it is a bill that is going to become law. For example, the bill to have all new vehicles as of 2015 fitted with backup cameras was one of the laws that was presented to Congress and then passed into law in the United States. Power versus authority. Power is unsanctioned abuse. If I come into your house and I break into your house and I beat you up and I put you in the hospital and I steal your stuff, that is power. That is a form of physical force. Authority is something that is based in the Constitution of the United States of America, and it is authority, and it is necessary for public safety and public order. What makes policing different than other government organizations, so for example, the IRS, is that the police are sanctioned to use physical force, and they have weapons and other displays of power that intimidate you and cause fear, and it is to deter criminals. For example, they carry firearms, they have the batons, they have the zapper thing. Having a brain cramp. They carry pepper spray and other types of weapons that they can impose physical force on the public to garner their will. Now, there are laws, and of course now we have cameras in place that require accountability on the part of the police force. And if you want to see that kind of accountability, watch, yes, tasers. Thank you very much, Eric. Tasers, that was the word was not coming into my head. So, what is pepper spray, elevator fan? Pepper spray is exactly what it is. It's pepper in a spray that they spray into your eyes, and it burns tremendously. It's terrible. It takes hours for it to get out of your face and in your eyes so it stops burning. The thin blue line. So police put forward that they fight crime. They are the thin blue line between society, civilization, and the criminal element of our society. And most of this, they do some of that, and they police criminal activity For the most part, police do not fight crime, as is put forth in many of the police movies that we see on television and those types of things. Police control crime, because stamping out crime in our societies is nigh impossible. Unfortunately, most of what police do in our society is maintain public order, as I was saying at the beginning. Something like 75 to 85% of police resources go to policing traffic. Just traffic. So it's an incredible amount of resources that go to policing traffic within our societies. Okay, police cultures, because they deal with the not so nice element of society, police tend to be conservative, they tend to hang out by themselves, and they tend to be a little odd when dealing with members of the public or interacting within social circles, if anybody has had interactions with police. Okay, it is a dangerous job. There is no doubt about it that policing the public is a dangerous job. They interact with the lower socioeconomic bracket of society. They deal with the criminal element. It depends, as I was saying at the beginning, that it depends when you get pulled over. If you get pulled over for speeding, or you get pulled over for a taillight on your vehicle, or some other infraction when you're driving, it depends what part of town you're in. If you're driving around East Hastings in Vancouver, this is the area of town that is known for homelessness. It is known for drug use. It's known for prostitution and gambling, illegal gambling, and all the other types of things. If you get pulled over in that area of town, police are already going to what's called profiling you, right? And it depends, of course, what you look like, right? Are you disheveled? Have you not shaved in a few days? Is your beard not trimmed? Are you slurring your words? Have you been drinking? Have you been smoking marijuana? Those types of things. So there's all these tick boxes that kind of get ticked off as to how you get treated when you get pulled over. And of course, we have Adventure from Brazil. It's different. Okay, in different countries. There's no doubt about it, about the police in different countries and those types of things. And you're going to have to deal with the culture and whatnot. Adventure, I have a question. Is sheriff in Canada also representative of the people? Does the population of region vote for the sheriff? Not in Canada. No, we don't have sheriffs. Now, it's interesting. In Canada, sheriffs are what bailiffs are in the United States. So the bailiffs in the United States move prisoners around between the jails and the courthouses and other appointments and whatnot. That's the bailiff's job in the United States. Here in Canada, the sheriff is comparable to what the bailiff is in the United States. Now, I know it's like that in British Columbia where I live here, but it also might be like that. I don't know whether it's the same in other provinces, because it's been a long time since I've been in Ontario or other places, but I'm pretty sure the sheriff does what the bailiffs do in the United States. Procedures when pulled over. When you get pulled over, okay, if it's just lights that they're using to pull you over, try and get to a safe place. Pull off on a side street, pull into a parking lot or some other place where you can get off the main road. If it's lights and sirens, then you need to pull over immediately, okay? If you pull over on the side of the road, try and get off the road as much as you can, okay? Sit in the vehicle with your hands clearly visible on the steering wheel, okay? Come up. When they come up, you can see them coming up. They will roll down the you roll down the window, talk to the officer, answer his or her questions. If they ask you for the registration and insurance, say, okay, the registration and insurance is in the glove box. I'm going to reach for it. You reach for it in there. Now, many people in the United States of America will have a firearm, and they may have a firearm in their vehicle. If you have a firearm in your vehicle, tell the police officer that you have a firearm. Tell them where it is located. Tell them that you have a permit, and then you can hand them the permit if they want the permit. And whatever questions they ask, yes, no, simple answers for dealing with the police, okay? Wait for the officer to approach your vehicle. Do not get out of the vehicle when the officer is approaching the vehicle, okay? What is the most common reason? Omni-washer, the most common reason for police pulling you over is probably speeding. Okay, and we can talk a little bit more about speeding, but we'll talk about speed cameras and speeding and those types of things because I'm working on a case right now with speeding, and we can talk about some of that. But that's probably the most common reason. The other reason would be action contrary to a regulatory sign. For example, you didn't stop completely at a stop sign intersection. the neighbors complain that people aren't stopping at the intersection, so the police have to intervene. All right, those are some of the reasons that you could potentially be pulled over by police. First and foremost, when you get pulled over and the police officer approaches the window, don't deny what you did. I pulled you over for speeding. You were doing 10 miles an hour above the posted speed limit. Don't say, oh no, I wasn't speeding. Because that just makes it adversarial, and then the police officer is going to, they've got proof. They don't just pull you over because they know that there is a possibility that they could go to court. And if they go to court, they have to present evidence that you were in fact speeding that will uphold in court, and the judge will issue the ticket and uphold the ticket in court. So police officers who do this kind of work, for the most part, are going to have the evidence in place. Now, I'll tell you a story after the presentation that there are times maybe that you will get off in traffic court. Okay, don't question the officer's authority, saying that it is your constitutional right not to have to present registration and insurance for your vehicle. That is not the place, the side of the road. And believe me, there's a good opportunity, there's a good possibility that if that is what you're doing, challenging the constitutional authority of the police officer that they can't arrest you, this, that, and or whatnot, there's a good chance that you're probably going to get arrested, and you're probably going to have to figure this out down at the police station, because on the side of the road is not the place to challenge the officer's constitutional authority to pull you over. Okay, weapons, as I said, if you have a weapon in the car, make sure that you tell the police officer where the weapon is, that you have a permit for it, where it is, and whatnot. And again, if you're going to be adversarial, the police officer is going to be adversarial right back at you. And as well, they're going to bring the full brunt of the law to bear on you. Instead of if you're traveling at 70 miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour zone, instead of them knocking the ticket down to 65 miles an hour and cutting you a break, they're probably going to give you the 70 mile an hour speeding ticket. In some places that's called stunt driving. They will tow your car. I know that in the province of Ontario, if it's 30 kilometers an hour above the posted speed limit, here in British Columbia, you simply lose your car for a few weeks and those types of things. So be nice, because sometimes you may just get off with a warning, because I've had many times where I've been pulled over by police, been very nice to them, answer their questions and those types of things, and you simply get a warning. Move over laws. I'll just mention this lastly. If there are construction workers, police, emergency crews, fire, ambulance, tow trucks, and whatnot working on the side of the road, if you can slow down to 40 miles an hour, 70 kilometers an hour here in Canada, this is almost North America wide now. Every province, every state has this move over law. If you can't move over safely, try and hug the left side of the lane as much as possible. And if you do this on a driver's test, it's an automatic fail. If you don't fail to slow down to 40 kilometers an hour and move over to the left lane, you are not going to be successful in passing your driver's test. Okay, your rights in terms of a speeding ticket. The speeding ticket will come. You will mail it in. If you just want to plead guilty, then you just mail it in with the payment. Most of these you can pay online. Many of these speeding tickets will now have a bonus system that if you pay it within 10 days, it's half the price. This is how they get you to pay the tickets. You can plead guilty, pay the fine, or you can choose to go to traffic court, and you can dispute the ticket in traffic court. All right, good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. I just want to have a caveat here at the beginning, a little disclaimer. This is not a presentation to slag the police. We're simply giving you expert advice, professional information about what you should do if you get pulled over by police, what you need to do to keep both yourself safe and to keep the police safe. So that's the last thing you want to see, is the blue and red lights in the back window and having to pull over, having to find a safe place to pull over, because as we'll talk about in the presentation, there are places that you can pull over safely and there are places that are not going to be so safe for you to pull over. For example, on the side of a highway, the side of an interstate, the freeway, these are not safe places to pull over with the police if you get caught for speeding or some other infraction while you're driving. And I've been pulled over numerous times by police, more so when I was driving truck than in my own personal vehicle. Usually because I was speeding on a state road is usually why I got pulled over. I did get a ticket for parked on the side of the road and on a highway once with the truck. We had to use the washroom, and I parked on the side of the road to go in and use it. Now, what I should have done was pulled the hood on the truck and, said, oh, I'm getting some water or something for the truck. It's overheating, is what I should have said, but I didn't, and there we go. Of course, it's going to depend on a whole lot of factors when you get pulled over. If you are in the wrong place in town that is notorious for transients, homeless populations, drug trades, prostitution, those types of things, it is not going to go as well for you as if you're in a different place where you're just getting pulled over, okay? So it depends on where you are in town, where you're going to get pulled over, how the police stop is going to go. And on the other hand, if you are in the least bit adversarial with the police, it's going to go badly for you. Do not offer extra information to the police. Simply answer the questions. It's the same thing as going across the border. Yes, no, going here, going there, very short, to the point answers to their questions. Tell them what you're going to do. If you're going to reach for something in the vehicle, your license, your registration, those types of things, tell them, hey, my license and registration is in the glove box. I'm going to reach over there and get that, okay? And they'll say, okay, right? If they tell you to get out of the car, those types of things, that's a different thing. Now, the other piece about this in terms of getting pulled over by police, the side of the road is not the place to argue whether you were speeding or not. That is the last place that you want to do. This is why the courts are in place. You will get your speeding ticket. Say, for example, you did get pulled over for speeding. You will have your speeding ticket and you will have your opportunity to go to court and dispute the ticket. Or you can hire a lawyer or a paralegal or some other person that deals with speeding tickets. Because I know in some places in the States, they have paralegals that will do this. There are organizations. Ontario has this as well, and I did use one of these some years ago. And policing is only 150 years old. It's a new kind of arm of the government, so to speak. And what they do, most of what police do is maintenance of social order. In other words, policing traffic, policing you in public spaces and those types of things. They do fight crime, but not as much as you would like to think or the media would like you to think. That is what they do. Adventure, to interrupt, but in Canada, there's also specific police force for trucks, just like in the US. Yes, there are. The DOT, sometimes referred to in the trucking language as the diesel bears. They, yes, indeed, have their own police force, but they can be policed by regular police as well. It's not just the DOT. But the DOT tends to be responsible for pre-trip inspections, truck safety, weights, compliance, logbooks, those types of things. So you're absolutely right, Adventure, that trucking companies, trucks and buses in the United States have their own police forces. Question, what do you know your registration is expired? How do you explain that to the police officer? Caramel, if your registration is expired and for us here in British Columbia and in some other places, I know Saskatchewan is the same. When you renew your registration, you're also renewing your license on your vehicle. So that means that your license is expired and you're driving a vehicle without the license on your vehicle. So that can be a pretty hefty fine if operating a vehicle without insurance. My understanding is that sometimes that fine can be upwards of $500, but I don't know. Okay, you can also get pulled over for no lights on, expired registration, headlights out, those types of things. Absolutely, you can get pulled over for all of that. So it's a good idea once a month to go around your vehicle, do a pre-trip inspection, make sure that all your lights are working, and that way you're not going to get pulled over. Make sure that your license plate light is working as well. Yes, and when you get pulled over, keep your seatbelt on. Don't take your seatbelt off but if they're pulling you over for a seatbelt fine, or you're not wearing your seatbelt or distracted driving and those types of things, you can't try and put it on because they already know that you didn't have it on. So this is another reason that you can be pulled over for using a cell phone while driving. And that's pretty common. I know that my mate Phil used to police cell phone use a lot when he was driving. Now, there's a lot of technicalities when it comes to distracted driving and using your phone. I know that for drivers on provisional licenses, you're not allowed any hands-free devices or handheld devices in the vehicle. So, some people say, oh, you can touch it once to answer the phone. I don't have to touch the phone to answer my phone in the car. I simply push the button on the radio and it will come on. So Carrie says, when she got pulled over, I felt nervous. Everybody feels nervous when they get pulled over by police because they wonder what they did or how much the fine is going to be, because generally it's pretty hefty, especially if you get pulled over for speeding. The fine can be upwards of $170. It's usually a $200 fine. Okay, Adventure, thank you very much for the reply. I use your channel to practice listening to the language and learn about traffic laws in Canada. Congratulations on your work. Adventure, thank you so much, and good luck on learning English. I know that's pretty tough. I've been working on French there for a couple of years, so it can be tough. Let's talk a little bit about speed cameras. Speed cameras are put in place, and these automatically enforce speed limits. In Australia, they have pervasive use of speed cameras, and they definitely bring compliance in the terms of how fast people drive. There's absolutely no doubt about it. In Australia, everybody drives 60 miles an hour because that's what speed cameras are set for, and they do work. Now, there has been accusations leveled at speed cameras saying that they do not improve public safety at all because they simply line government coffers with money, because speed cameras are in place. There are private companies that run these speed cameras. They mail out the tickets. You'll receive it in the mail with a picture of you speeding or running the red light. They're also used for red light cameras and those types of things. I got one a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, when I drove across Canada. We got a speed ticket camera in Saskatchewan, and I looked at the ticket. I read the ticket carefully, and it said that there would be no points assigned. There would be no effect on my insurance if I simply paid the ticket. So, I mean, if there were no consequences outside of the financial penalty of the ticket, then I simply just paid the ticket, because there was no way that I was going to go back to Saskatchewan to fight a speeding ticket that I got from a camera. So it's a bit of a pain in the butt because you'll get it. Now, saying that, in terms of the culture of speeding and the terms of the culture of driving, if you're using your GPS, you're using the app on your phone, these will tell you where speed cameras are in place. These will tell you where red light cameras are in place. My Garmin dash cam, for example, will tell me where there are red light cameras. As I'm approaching an intersection, it will say red light camera ahead. So if you're getting dobbed in this day and age for a red light camera or a speed camera, you're not paying attention. You don't have your GPS running, and you don't have a dash cam or those types of things. And it was the same thing when I was driving across the States. Now we have Google, and if you're running Google and there is a police officer pulled over on the side of the road, somebody will report that to Google, and it will be on your phone that there is a speed check ahead. So know that. And I tell you, it must have been half a dozen times that, I was running the map on my phone in the van, and half a dozen times, speed check ahead, speed check ahead, speed check ahead. And sure enough, you get up there and there'd be a police officer with somebody pulled over. There, you can figure out where the speed cameras are and those types of things. Now, professional speeders in the United States, you can have a radar detector in your vehicle. I wouldn't recommend that you have a radar detector in your vehicle, especially in the United States, because police have detectors that will tell them that you have a radar detector in your vehicle. So if they do that, most people are professional speeders who have radar detectors in their vehicle because they're looking to try and prevent getting a speeding ticket, and they're driving fast. Know that. Okay? Also, new navigation systems on car, all of that is going to have to tell you where the speed checks are. So if you're getting a ticket for speeding or a red light camera ticket in this day and age, I'm kind of curious what you're doing, what you're not paying attention to, right? But it does happen, okay? Stabby, especially cops who hide and stay under overpasses with their radar guns. They are brutal in Mississauga. Okay, that does happen, and they are definitely hiding. But the thing is that they can't hide for very long because of social media and Google and those types of things. Once they're there and people figure out, they get pulled over, it's all over social media, and it's in the navigation and Google and those types of things, and it's going out, and people are being told where these traps are set up, okay? Carrie, some of the worst traffic tickets given out are due to being at fault in a traffic crash. Yes, and On that note, Carrie, as you know, many of you know, I work as a expert witness in crash testimony, and in the United States, you will be convicted of a traffic violation, whatever that might be, and then it's the personal injury lawyers afterwards that are going to sue you. That's what hurts in the United States of America. We don't have that so much here in Canada. It's you're convicted of a traffic violation, and then that is the end of it. There isn't as much litigation here in Canada as there is in the United States of America. So in the United States, generally that's what's going to happen. Stabby. Okay. So traffic cameras, I got pulled over. What else was we were going to talk about? We talked about speed cameras, talked about speeding. And as I said, I've been pulled over one night in Kelowna. This was, I'm trying to think now, probably 2009. Went to work out at a martial arts club because, as you know, I do jiu-jitsu. I was doing, first time at a club. And of course, I came out, of course, I'm all kind of ramped up. And you go across the bridge, which goes across the lake in Kelowna, out to West Kelowna, West Bank. And I was speeding on the bridge. And I got pulled over. And I was very nice to the police officer. And he's like, oh, and he looked at my registration, looked at my license. Of course, I didn't have any previous tickets or whatnot. And he was very nice about it. And he gave me a warning. And so this is what happens is many of the times, if you are pleasant, answer the questions, don't have anything to hide, don't have a criminal rap sheet, as they say, you don't have a lot of convictions and whatnot, traffic violations. 8 out of 10 times of getting pulled over, you are simply going to get a warning. So this is the other piece about it that, be nice because you'll get a warning. Can you be pulled over in another state for not having front end tags, which isn't legal in the state of Maryland? Caramel, no. Generally, if you're driving an out-of-state vehicle and you don't have a front license plate, they will not pull you over for that. Because here in Canada, in British Columbia, we require a front license plate, but we know that the province of Alberta does not require a front license plate. So when they come here to this province, they're not required to have a front license plate. It's the same thing in the States. If you're driving into another state, they're not going to require you to have that front license plate. Can you offer breakfast donuts if you have them in the car? Eric, you can, although, it may be... it may not be seen as clever or funny. You got to pick your audience when you're trying to tell those jokes and those types of things. Now, as I said to you, I got pulled over some years ago when I was driving truck in the 1990s in London, Ontario. At the time, we had paralegals who were would go to court for you for a speeding ticket. So professional drivers, CDL drivers, all have driver's abstracts. And it's difficult to get hired as a truck driver with another trucking company if you have a lot of speeding tickets or traffic violations. And the traffic ticket that I got, it was a speeding ticket. I was in town. I think I was doing 70 kilometers an hour and a 50 kilometers an hour, which is 40 miles an hour in a 30 zone, right? And I got pulled over and the ticket came with 3 points. Now, I didn't mind paying the fine, which was $170 at the time. And so I paid the fine. I hired this company. I think it was $100 to pay them. Now, you can hire a lawyer as well to go to court on your behalf for speeding tickets. And the organization went to court. They got off on the points because I didn't have any other violations, traffic violations or those types of things. I simply had to pay the fine. So I didn't have any record on my driver's abstract. So this is another thing you can do. And I know that there are organizations in the United States that will go to court on your behalf. Here in Canada, generally, we don't have them here in British Columbia. I don't know about other provinces. People in the United States, you could just say in the chat there what kind of organizations you have that will represent you in court for traffic tickets and whatnots. So that's another option in terms of a traffic ticket. Carmel, please also explain, can a cop stop you if your front end of your car is completely gone? I've seen that on Maryland roadways. Yes, if your vehicle is not fit for the roadway, you can definitely be pulled over by police for a safety issue. For example, if you have lights out and you're driving at night, that is not a safe vehicle. People pulling trailers seldom do pre-trip inspections, and oftentimes the lights are not working on their trailer and they can get pulled over for that. If there are pieces missing off your car, cowling, doors, those types of things, the vehicle is not safe, and yes, you can be pulled over and you can be charged for that. So that is what will happen. All right. Can you recommend a good navigation app for trucking? I cannot because I've been out of the trucking industry and navigation was not something we had. Now, Mario, something I would suggest you do is just go into some of the trucking forums, and I know that just Google it and just say best GPS app for trucking, because I know that some of the, probably Rand McNally probably has one. I suspect they were the people that made the maps that I talked about. Okay, the point system on license. So Caramel, the point system that I know about is the one in Ontario. I don't know how it works in different places because I haven't heard the same point system here in British Columbia. Generally in Ontario, and I think, you know, all of them are kind of a variation of this, you're allowed 16 points on your license. Okay, so a speeding ticket, if it's, you know, the one that I got, for example, was 20 kilometers an hour over, was 3 points on your license. Okay, so you get 3 points, 3 demerit points. So if you get 3 speeding tickets with 3 demerit points each, that's 9 points. Once you get to 9 points and you're allowed 16 points, they call you in and say, hey, why should you keep your license? And you have to give them a reason, right? The other piece about the demerit point system is it also affects your insurance. So if you have 3 speeding tickets with, you know, 9 points total, your insurance is going to start to go up, right? Same thing with a cell phone ticket, for example. That's also 3 points on your license. And one of the neighbors here where I live, one day he was riding his bicycle, and he's not the kind of person to be riding a bicycle. And I said, oh, what happened? Did you lose your license? And I said it jokingly, and he said, well, in fact, I did lose my license. He was using his cell phone 3 times within 2 years. And if you get a cell phone ticket, 3 years, or within 2 years, 3 times, you lose your license for 6 months. So he lost his license for 6 months for cell phone use. So that's how it goes. And once you get up around the 10, 11, 12 mark, you start to have to explain to the DOT, the organization that controls licensing, why you should keep your license. So that's how the demerit point system works. Caramel, where can you get your driver's record? Yes, you can get a driver's record. Here in British Columbia, it's free. You can just call up ICBC and you can request one. Now, you can call the DOT and you can request a driver's record. Now, I know that some DOTs, there is a fee for them to send you your driving record and what violations and those types of things you have on your driving record, okay? But you can get it. Car insurance premiums are really high. Stabby, absolutely no doubt about it. And especially for new drivers, I don't know how that they are affording their insurance premium. Okay, elevator fan, I use a hands-free device when driving so that I don't have to hold my phone while driving. Yes, and that's exactly what you want to do, my friend. Okay, Maryland, call MVA and ask them since it's different. And yes, different everywhere. Okay, it's going to be slightly different. Eric, can you also ask a police station for a record? Eric, no, they're not the ones that have the records of your driving. It's going to be the licensing agency. So, for example, here in British Columbia, it's ICBC, the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia. Not really sure why an insurance company is responsible for licensing, but they are, and that's who you get your driver's abstract from. In the province of Ontario, it's the Ministry of Transportation of Ontario, which is essentially the DOT. So in the United States, it's going to be the DOT, it's going to be the BMV, okay, the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. These are the people that are in charge of keeping your driving record. So that's what you need to do in the United States if you want that. Now, the last piece about this, if you do get pulled over by a police officer and you get a speeding ticket and you choose to go to court, there are possibilities that you could be found not guilty of the crime. The one time that I actually went to traffic court and, you know, disputed the ticket, I didn't even testify. So, and while we were waiting, sometimes the police officer will not show up at court. If the police officer does not show up at court to defend the ticket that he or she wrote you or gave you, then you are automatically, the ticket is automatically dismissed. There was a young gentleman there when I was at traffic court, and the staff sergeant came in. He was looking for the guy and said to him, the police officer not showing up, you're off. Okay, so that's a gamble, you know, that might happen. The other piece that happened was I got a speeding ticket, went to traffic court. The officer that administered the speeding ticket was young and was not a veteran. He was a rookie. And he got up on court. He explained what happened. I saw two gentlemen in the car. The front of the car went down. I pulled them over and issued a ticket. And then the judge said to him a couple of times, she said, "What did you charge the driver with?" And he's like, "Well, I gave them a speeding ticket." And I was like, I didn't really know what was going on. And the judge repeated the question again, and he told her the same thing. I gave them a speeding ticket. Instead of saying I charged them under the Highway Traffic Act, Section 5, Subsection 6, Paragraph 4, which was what she was looking for. And she said, she said to the officer, at the end, she said, "Is that all?" He said, "Yes, that's all." And she looked at me and she said, "You're dismissed because the officer hasn't told me what he charged for or what you were in violation of doing on that section of roadway." So I got off because the officer was not experienced. Now, listening to some of the other cases and listening to police officers that are very experienced in terms of presenting in court and presenting evidence in terms of traffic tickets that they issue, they will spend a great deal of time saying exactly what courses they have taken and they have undergone while being a police officer, what radar gun they are using, the specifications of the radar gun, where they were sitting, their exact specific geographical location along the roadway, which way traffic was going, a weather report of what the weather was, overcast, those types of things. It is a very detailed account of the day in question of when they issued the traffic ticket to you. And if you get that kind of officer when you go to court that is going to sit up there and present for about 20 minutes of what happened, the courses they've had, those types of things, you're not going to be found not guilty of a traffic ticket if that is the kind of officer that you are up against. And within police forces, there are specific traffic police that is what they do. That is their job of policing traffic. And they issue speeding tickets and other violations under the Highway Traffic Act. Okay? And if you get one of those officers, there's no point you going to court and trying to fight it because they're incredibly experienced. They have a wealth of experience in terms of doing this kind of work and going to court and presenting evidence that in fact you were speeding. Epic, importantly, one pulled over there might be an emergency pull-off area so that it's way safer than on the shoulder of the road. Absolutely. There was an incident in New York State, where a police officer worker almost died. Yes, and it's a dangerous place being on the side of the road. Some years ago, when I was in the province of Ontario, a police officer had a semi-truck pulled over on the side of the freeway, and another semi-truck came along and plowed into the back of the police cruiser and plowed into the tractor-trailer. The police officer was actually standing on the running boards of the semi-truck, and they were killed. So it's not safe on the side of the road, and if you can get off somewhere else, it's definitely going to be safer for both you and the police officer. Carry a dangerous action. Another really bad ticket to get is passing a school bus arm. People still do this even when they're not supposed to. Yes, and carry. Some people were surprised to learn after watching the school bus video about procedures for school buses stopped with cautionary lights, strobe lights, stop arms, and those types of things. If you get a ticket for passing a school bus, that's 6 points. 6 points. Okay, it is very serious, and I think the fine is incredible. I think it's like $1,000, $1,200 fine. So the authorities take this seriously, that you should not be passing school buses. And I don't know why in this day and age that anybody would be in that much of a hurry that they need to be passing school buses when the lights are flashing and the stop arm is extended. It's just crazy. Wheelman, I hear it's easy to get a CDL in Canada these days. In the 90s, not so easy at all. What caused the change? Wheelman, we were actually talking about that this morning because there was some reporting on the news of late that there is widespread corruption in the province of Ontario amongst truck driving schools, that, you know, these schools are cutting corners, people are buying licenses, you know, there's just all kinds of things that are going on, and the system needs to be overhauled and policed in some way. So it's not easy. I know here in British Columbia that getting a CDL license here now is expensive, especially now that they brought in the mandatory entry-level training program. So you have to have a certain amount of training. And now the cost of getting a CDL license is upwards of $15,000 to $20,000. It is really expensive to get a truck license now. And I would suggest that anybody who's going to do that, if you're going to spend that kind of money, I would suggest go be an electrician, go be a plumber, because you can go and spend that kind of money and go to college for a few weeks, get some courses, and then go out and actually work for a company as an apprentice. And you get paid as an apprentice, and then you're doing the work as an apprentice. You go back, you take a few more weeks of classes at the college, and then you go back out and you work again, and you're making money. And there is a company in town here that is looking for plumbers, certified plumbers. They are paying $55 an hour, plus full benefit package and 4 weeks of holidays a year. And they cannot get somebody to work for them. $55 an hour. So you're thinking about being a truck driver and it's going to cost you $15,000 or $20,000 to get your license? No, there are better options out there, much better. Epic, in some jurisdictions, if you get a moving violation out of state, you only get something like 2 demerit points. This is actually said on the New Jersey point system section of the combined car manual. Excellent. Okay, so yes, good to know. But it does happen, right? That you do get tickets in other places and it will affect your license and those types of things. Adventure about not respecting the stop sign for the school bus. I saw that in the U.S. This violation has skyrocketed. I unfortunately associate this with the phenomena of immigration. Adventure, I don't know whether it's that. It may be because, I mean, you know, as you just said, they do not have yellow school buses in any other part of the world. I mean, not in Australia and not in Europe. So, you know, in other countries and whatnot. So this is a phenomenon here that people may not be familiar with, you know, in Canada and the United States, is that we simply don't have yellow school buses in other parts of the world. North America is beautiful. The rules, unfortunately, some people don't understand them. Yes, absolutely. Caramel, please explain, if you were driving someone else's car and you get pulled over, how can you explain it to the police officer? Caramel, you just tell the police officer, you just say, listen, it's my mom's car, it's my uncle's car, and here's the registration for the vehicle. So if you are driving somebody else's vehicle, in order to be insured, most insurance companies, you have to be 25 years old to be insured under that other person's insurance as an occasional driver. So look carefully at other people's insurance before you go out and borrow their car and those types of things. Stabby, is it normal to be frightened to drive on the highway after experiencing an accident in front of you? Stabby, it is absolutely normal. PTSD is very real in terms of driving and crashes and whatnot, and people are going to be anxious. I know that I was incredibly anxious after I got run over on my bicycle in Australia, and it took me a few weeks to kind of, you know, be comfortable again riding my bicycle in traffic. So yes, that's very normal. K-Rob, have you ever met someone who never got pulled over? K-Rob, have I ever met somebody? I can't, it's not something that comes up a lot, but you know, it's unusual that people don't get pulled over because, you know, everybody at some point gets pulled over because you get complacent after a while, right? And you're like, oh yeah, I'm never going to get pulled over. But you do get pulled over eventually. Can you be arrested for causing an accident? Elevator fan, I mean, if you're being malicious and you're using your vehicle as a weapon, then yes, you could be arrested. There was a story about, an Australian story, about a truckie that was in a roadhouse in the outback, and he got into a fight with a couple of the patrons in the roadhouse, went out, got in his truck and drove through the roadhouse, and he was charged and convicted of second-degree murder because it wasn't premeditated, but he did plan to use his vehicle as a weapon. So I mean, there are those kinds of incidents for sure. But if it's a simple traffic violation, not a simple traffic violation, but if it's a violation under the Traffic Highway Act, then yes, it's not likely that you're going to be arrested. They may impound your vehicle. For example, here in British Columbia, if you're doing 30 kilometers an hour over the posted speed limit, they're going to impound your vehicle. So you're not going to be arrested, but you are going to be walking. So that's another thing that could happen for sure. Pulled over by police, most of the time it's going to be for cell phone use while you're driving, or it's going to be for speeding. These are the main reasons why you're going to get pulled over in a vehicle by police. If you get pulled over and there isn't a parking lot or a side street that you can pull down to be in a safe place for the officer to come up and talk to you through the window and those types of things, tell the officer what you're doing, okay? So do not do anything in the vehicle until the officer comes up to the window and talks to you. And most of the time, officers are trained. They're going to stand sideways and they're going to stand at the B pillar right here behind you and talk to you through the window. It is simply a safety thing for them in terms of, you know, somebody shooting or using a weapon through the window and those types of things. Okay, so wait. If it's nighttime, you can turn on the interior light in the vehicle. Keep your hands visible on the steering wheel. The officer will come up. They'll tell you what they pulled you over for, whether it was for speeding or you were using your cell phone or those types of things. If the officer asks you for your registration and insurance, say the registration and insurance is in the glove box or it's under the passenger seat or wherever it might be in the vehicle, and say, listen, I'm going to reach for it, I'm going to get it, and I will hand it to you, and then you hand it to them, right? Answer their questions. Where are you from? Where are you going? Where have you been? You know, I was at work, I'm going home, it's a few blocks up the road, those types of things. So answer the driver's question, the officer's questions, and many times, as I said, 8 times out of 10, if you are nice to the police officer, they're simply going to give you a warning, and then you can carry on with your day, okay? Some years ago, when I was driving truck, I was in North Carolina, and I was going through town. It was late. It was like 1:30 in the morning, and I was doing much faster than I should have been, probably 50 miles an hour in a 30. And I was going through town, and I was going eastbound. The police cruiser went westbound, past me. I saw him, and I was like, yep, he's pulling me over. And I just pulled over to the side of the road, and I stopped, and I waited for the police cruiser to come back, and the police cruiser did come back, and I was already parked on the side of the road because I knew he was going to pull me over. And gets out of the car. He's got that big flashlight that's this long, and he comes up and he's waving it up the trailer, and I can see him coming up the truck. And so I'm in the truck, I'm sitting there, I'm waiting, and he comes up to the door and he says, "Oh, why don't you all come down here?" I said, okay. So I grabbed the book with all the paperwork in it and the truck registration and the license and the insurance and those types of things. And I get down and we go around the front of the truck, and he's got his big light, his big mag light, that's what they're called. And he asked for my license, and I gave him my license, and he's got his mag light and he's looking at my license. And, you know, he's kind of studying my license. And, you know, large, probably 6'3" with the big, you know, state trooper hat on, and looks at his license, and he looks up at me, and he looks down at me because he was much taller than I was. And he says to me, "I don't know how you all drive up north," he says. "We don't drive like that down here." It was right on the tip of my tongue to say to him, "Well, we don't drive like that up north either." But I didn't. I held it in. I kind of smiled a little bit, and he says, "Where are you going?" I said, "Oh, I'm just going up the road here a few miles to start. I'm going to lie down." I said, "Pretty tired." He said, "Okay." He handed me back my license. He says, "Well, why don't you slow down, have yourself a good night?" And I got off with a warning, right? But I wasn't adversarial. I didn't challenge him. I just answered his questions, did what he told me to do, got out of the truck, gave him my license, and those types of things. And in many cases, that is what is going to happen. If you are nice to the police officer, you are going to get off with a warning. And I can say that I've been pulled over numerous times, probably 15 or 20 times in my driving career. And, you know, I would say that very seldom did I actually get a speeding ticket or a traffic violation for the things that I was doing. Wheelman, could you explain, please do a video explaining oversteer and understeer. I still dream about those Kenworths and crash boxes. Thanks. Okay, well, we'll see what we can do on doing that for you this winter, my friend. Epic in some states like Rhode Island, police pull you over if your license plate wasn't replaced yearly because it comes with a registration sticker pre-installed. I wonder what the advantage of the registration sticker plate is. I don't know, but here in Canada, they no longer have the sticker because police now have technology to read your license plate, and it will give the police officer the information of whether your insurance is up to date and your registration and those types of things, or any other traffic violations and whatnot. So police now have the technology to scan the license plate on your vehicle. You do not need that registration sticker on your car, and that is going to be much more widespread as we're going on there and those types of things. All right, in New Brunswick they still have stickers. Okay, so Ontario, the province of Ontario here in Canada, and British Columbia, we no longer have stickers. So that's what's going on. Elevator fan, no, it's not an automatic ticket for passing a school bus. Of course, they got to catch you first, right? But you may be reported to police and they may come and have a conversation with you. So that's what we're talking about tonight. Thank you so much for all that. If you have any questions, leave a comment down in the comment section. And for the video, click here and watch that video. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Thanks so much. Have a great night. Bye now.